just because you have success in this world doesn't mean you're always blessed. I find the real blessings are simple things: love, health, family. And so I just like to say that because I think a lot of people get caught up in, hey, God doesn't love me as much as he likes the newsboys because they're more successful. And I just don't see that that's how it functions in my faith.
You are listening to the Christian Music Archive podcast, part of the New Release Today podcast network. I'm your host, Dave Maurer. Each week, I share stories about Christ, community, and music, chatting with musical guests who you will find listed on the pages of the Christian Music Archive. There are thousands of creative men and women who have helped shape the soundtrack of the Christian faith, and we get to hear their stories, learn about how Christ has made a difference in their life, and hopefully along the way, we'll learn how we can be a better part of our community. When I first started this podcast, I was worried that it would be tough finding guests to be on the program. So I sent out over 300 invitations, thinking I might get about 5% of the emails responded to. But I was really surprised when I received nearly a full year's worth of artists writing back saying, "Yeah, I'd like to chat with you." I'm telling you this now because I still have another dozen episodes recorded that I'm currently editing. And I've also got some pretty cool guests lined up to share their stories. But I also wanted to mention this because I had a really busy January and February, recording as many as 5 interviews each week. Now, the drawback to recording so many episodes at once is that some of the interviews can get a bit dated, and today's interview is one of those. Back in February, I talked with Shawn and Michael Cavallo, better known as Manic Drive. And today, you finally get to hear that conversation. So just be aware that some of the dates and things that we were talking about are about 3 months old. We had a lot of fun in that conversation, so be sure and stick around for my conversation with Manic Drive. Before we hear today's conversation, I want to take a couple of minutes to tell you about another great program run by Mercy, Inc. Bridge to Reading is a program run in 12 Central African countries, as well as the country of Colombia in South America. This program teaches adults how to read and write in their own language, which has a number of benefits. Just think what advantages come economically to people who can read and write business transactions. And in many of these countries, women are marginalized after they pass through their childbearing years, so being able to read and write offers them dignity in the home. Or my favorite story is of pastors who are teaching the gospel but can't read it, so they have their children read the Bible to them. Just think what it would be like for these pastors to be able to read God's Word on their own. If you want to find out more about the work Mercy Inc. is doing through Bridge to Reading, head over to christianmusicarchive.com/mercy. There, you can read about our partnership with Mercy Inc., as well as see how you can get involved and further the work of teaching adults how to read around the world. That's christianmusicarchive.com/mercy. And thanks for your willingness to help. Brothers Shawn and Michael Cavallo have been singing and performing together since 1997. In 2004, they formally started their band Manic Drive and released a couple of albums that were quickly recognized by the Canadian Gospel Music Association with 4 Covenant Awards. Then, in 2015, they received a Juno Award for the Best Christian Canadian Album. Sitting down with these guys was a lot of fun, and I really appreciated Shawn and Michael's intent to make music that will share their faith in places that might not be open to traditional Christian music. Rather than recap everything in this conversation, let's jump right into the conversation I had with Manic Drive. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking time to join and fighting through technology, and it's an honor to have you guys join us. So welcome to the podcast, Shawn and Michael Cavallo of Manic Drive.
Woo! We did it.
Yes, we did it.
We're here. Thanks for having us.
Our website documents folks who make Christian music, and for people who may not know who Manic Drive is, they're probably living in a world without access to internet or running water. Let's start by telling the people a little bit about you guys and how you got started.
Well, we are brothers. We always had a deep passion and love for music at a very young age. And then back in just straight out of high school, between 2004 and 2005, we merged our powers together and formed a band called Manic Drive. And we've been releasing music and touring the lovely world ever since. And I guess our styles combined of rock and roll and funk and pop music all merging together to kind of form that Manic Drive sound. And here we are today talking to you about it.
Very, very cool. Now, you guys actually started out in a family band, right? This was kind of a offshoot when the family band dissolved. You guys started Manic Drive?
Yeah, our father was very musically inclined, and we were very young. Probably our first concert ever was the ages of 7 and 8, Sean. We went to a basement of a church.
Yeah, it'd be really, really young.
And we were like, we saw these dudes with long hair and ripped jeans just rocking, and we were like, this is what we want to do. It was in that moment we knew we were going to be starving musicians. And so my father, who was very musical, we kind of just, sort of formed this little family band. We did local churches and cafes and festivals at a very young age. And it was more just a fun family thing. But then through our youth and straight out of high school, we wanted to go full time with it. And we started working on our first album, Reasons for Motion, in 2004.
Well, now you said it's two brothers. Now, some brothers get along great, some brothers don't. How is that family dynamic kind of add to the musical sound that you guys create? Is it a push and pull, or is it a collaboration, or how does that work?
Creates that musical tension that we're known for.
Yeah, that angst.
Yeah. That
when I stand over his bed with sharp objects. Oh wow! So this is being recorded. Oh, okay.
No, the dynamic's pretty good. We got a lot in common as far as musical tastes and stuff like that. So musically or working together, it's pretty like we got our differences, but I think the cool thing about being so close is you could be really honest. With other bandmates that aren't family members, sometimes it's hard to shoot them really straight and just raw. And we get that kind of dynamic, and I think that's important for creating any art form. I think it's pretty important. So you might be hearing my baby in the background. By the way, he's doing some background vocals right now.
That's awesome. And we have a brand new baby, right?
Yeah, he's
straight off the shelf, brand new baby in stores
fresh
everywhere.
from the press.
Fresh from the press.
Yeah, he's 8 months old, and he's got a set of lungs. So
very cool.
Yeah, he'll be making appearances throughout, I'm sure.
Oh no, that's great. Getting them trained young.
Mm-hmm.
So with the family dynamic, do you both write, or is one of you the primary writer? Is one of you the primary music guy? How does that work?
Well, this is Michael, by the way. I'm the band leader, where Shawn is more the primary band guy.
Yeah.
So it's got two major egos, kind of fused together as one. So I would say, Shawn's the primary writer. I do a lot of co-writing and things of that. But Shawn, I think you beat me on a point system a little bit. You wrote more songs on the last album than I did. Congratulations.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No competition there at all.
No, I have much better dance moves though.
There you go. That's the important part, right?
I'm the family favorite though.
I am as the eldest. I will inherit the throne. And
now, for those of you who may be sensing there may be a little bit of a accent, you guys are from north of our border. You're up in Toronto area, correct?
Yes, beyond the wall.
Yeah.
We come from the land of Canada, Toronto, Ontario. What's up? Represent the 6.
So when you guys got started as a band, were you primarily regionally in Canada, or did you immediately jump and tour all of North America? How did that work for you?
Well, we were born and raised in Toronto, so that's home ground for us. We started branching out across Canada in the U.S. Mostly 2005 is when we started touring a little bit more heavily. We would do some power weekends here and there as teenagers, and we got to actually do some pretty cool concerts in our youth. But as far as really heavily touring was 2005 is when we started hitting the road.
I've heard some folks talk about the difference between touring in Canada and touring in the U.S. Have you guys experienced, is there something different in audiences, or is it pretty much the same?
There's a lot of similarities. Just Canada's like a massive in size and smaller in population. So actually touring across Canada is pretty painful. We've done it a couple times, but you got to think there's like a dozen cities across something that's wider than the United States.
Yeah.
So yeah, touring gets a little bit tricky, but we love playing as much as we can in the hometown. There's just a lot more opportunities and people in the US, and also just Christian music as a whole is a lot more prevalent in kind of American culture than it is in Canadian.
Yeah.
So it kind of just picked up naturally more for us in the US.
So that brings up the question. You said Christian music specifically. Obviously, we're the Christian Music Archive, but you have intentionally decided to write music that points to a faith perspective. Was that a specific choice, or is that just an outflow of who you are?
We were just going where the money was.
Yeah.
So going back on our childhood again, Shawn and I, well, actually through our parents, so taking us to these sort of church concerts in these basements back in the 90s when that was cool, when we were little guys.
Yeah.
We just were fans of it, simply put, right? So our dad and mom introduced us to a lot of great Christian artists such as DC Talk and Striper and Audio Adrenaline and Newsboys, upon other even local artists in the area from Toronto. And we just fell in love with that whole scene, buying the albums and everything back in the day. And seeing them in concert. And so we just naturally just kind of went into that scene just because we were fans.
Yeah.
I don't think we had this whole, what do you call it? This whole like religious epiphany. We're like, we are going to be a Christian.
Yeah, we were just
there was
so young, and we were so familiar and comfortable with the church. So that's what we knew, and that was our world, and we want to express it. And that obviously we grew from that, because that's not sustainable for the amount of time we've been doing this for.
Right.
But as our faith grew, we grew, and the whole thing kind of was just this fluid transition. It wasn't this heartbreaking testimony and we made a crazy decision. It kind of just was like a slow and steady growth.
Yeah. So basically, you're making music that expresses who you are as individuals, and part of who you are as individuals is followers of Christ, and so that's going to flow out into your music.
Yeah.
I would say that's naturally, that this comes out natural with any artist in any art form. Their life and what inspires them is always going to come through in their art, right?
Yeah. Well, I've talked to a lot of people who have said, well, I had the decision to make that I was going to focus on the Christian market or not. And there are people that have done equally well in both decisions. And so it's always interesting to me to kind of hear, if somebody were to come up to you and offer you a contract on a major label, it's not like you're going to turn it down. But if they're going to tell you to change your music content, how does that fit with what you're thinking?
Well, first off, any label that's listening right now that wants to give us the contract, we'll take it. We will take it.
We will sell our souls for that.
Definitely. I mean, we're businessmen too. So
Right.
Obviously this is a music industry. And of course, any opportunity for any artist, if a great connection happens with whatever label or company that wants to invest into your art, that's a great thing. We definitely don't care in which field, mainstream or not, how that works out.
Most of our, and we keep on saying this in interviews, because a lot of Christian media outputs don't really understand that the majority of our fan base aren't Christian listeners. I think just in Christian music, we are considered Christian musicians, especially we've been on the Christian radio charts. We've done all the major festivals. Most of our live events are Christian based. But because of opportunities kind of beyond our control and what's happening with Spotify and just the algorithms that pick up and getting some placements on whatever happens online in that world, most of these viewers are coming to our YouTube channel or something like that. And you see a lot of comments being like, wait, is this a Christian band?
Yeah.
I didn't know they were a Christian band. And so we're living in a really cool time, because that's how we grew up with Christian music. We grew up with, like Michael said, DC Talk or Newsboys, where it was more of a tool as an outreach, I think, to kind of have just starting some dialogue with people that might not have the same culture or mindset as you. And that's kind of where we stuck in Christian music, where I think nowadays a lot of Christian musicians are just wanting to stay in the safety net of Christian music. We kind of grew up when Christian music was kind of outside the church walls.
Yeah.
And so that's still very true to what we do, without kind of going overboard or over spiritual. It's just like, we just want to create that conversation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people out there, they don't speak Christianese. They don't know what you're talking about, and you just need to say something fun, something super simple, and then have them be like, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?" After you kind of have that starting conversation with them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the space that we want to be. It's a hard space to be in because you get in that spot where the mainstream market might think you're too Christian, and then the Christians don't think you're Christian enough.
Yeah.
But we just like playing that space, and that's kind of where our heart's at, and we're kind of stubborn with it. We're like, no, we're going to be right here. And a lot of people say, choose a side. You got to be secular or Christian. We're like, no, we're staying
There's that
right here.
There's that word again.
And yeah, secular.
Is that a secular painting you got hanging up there?
Is that secular? I drive a
Is
secular car.
Is that TV secular? It's Samsung. It's not even American.
Well, I talk about that as a plumber. Am I a Christian plumber or a secular plumber?
Yeah.
Got to be dealt with one way or the other, right? And I'm not going to necessarily call a Christian guy just because he does it different.
Yeah.
It's funny how art, we put this kind of tag on it. Well, I can't really look at that because it's not Christian, but we don't do that with anything else that we consume.
Yeah, and I think the importance of, like, there is a power and importance to music and art and expression, and to have a Christian mindset. A lot of people are going to want to show their kids or family members that it's like a safe zone. It's kind of like taking your kids to a PG-13 movie. You're kind of just ensured that, hey, this is going to be okay to listen to, which is totally cool.
PG-13 though? I don't know.
PG-13 gets a little tricky.
Yeah.
Are you taking your 8-month-old son to a PG-13? There's the question, right?
Yeah, PG-13 months.
We're very progressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
and there's absolutely space for worship, for music that is directed to a church market. But I'm really at the place in my life right now where I'm trying to say, okay, if I'm going to be able to talk to people about my faith that don't know about faith, I have to speak their, not so much speak their language, but be in places where they would say, that's interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah, and a lot of Christians kind of, well, sorry, I don't want to say a lot of Christians. It's kind of been a little bit overlooked in Christianity to learn how to speak to people that haven't been introduced to it, or might have some sort of just bad vibes, like some sort of stigma on it. Because there's Christianity's wrapped up in a ton of world history and a ton of politics and things like that. It can get really confusing.
Yeah.
And so if someone is coming from the other side and they want to hear something, you got to learn how to be able to actually open up, not be scared, not be threatened by it, and have that conversation. Like I said, Manic Drive's not doing anything crazy with our lyrics. This isn't something that's so extreme and we're doing something new. This is just something as basic as just being like, yeah, we're Christians and some of our music is listened by non-Christians, and we think that's really important, and we're not going to slam a Bible over their head. We're just gonna say a couple things, throw it out there. If they dig it, cool. And I think that kind of just slightly changes someone's perspective of a Christian, just to be like, hey, okay, cool. It's not like this extreme oversight.
Well, you had said something a little bit earlier about, your dad and mom exposing you to a bunch of different music. And then how surreal is that to then be on the road with, the Newsboys and Stryper and some of these guys that you have grown up listening to, and now you're actually opening for them. What is that pinch me moment like?
That was actually a very beautiful moment when we were performing with these artists, because we did grow up listening to them back not too long ago. I mean, we even had one of our favorite singers, Kevin Max of DC Talk, feature on a track, Blue, some time ago, and that was a good pinch me moment. Being asked to be on tour with the Newsboys was a good pinch me moment. Stryper was a pinch me moment. And these opportunities kept on sort of blossoming over the years, and we were very much blessed and honored to be involved in working with those artists. So yeah, there are not words to sort of describe those sort of, those emotions at that time, because it's so exciting and so thrilling. But
so walk me through the first phone call you get for one of those artists. Who was the first big artist that you're touring with? What was that phone call like?
Actually, repeat that question, because you broke up just a little bit there. It was an internet connection.
Sounded like the Borg a little bit.
You are being assimilated. No,
Oh man, not again. Is it Tuesday? What day is it?
no. So talk about the first phone call that you received for the first big artist that they invited you to be on the tour with. What was that moment like for you when you hung up that phone and looked at each other and said, "Oh my gosh, we just..."
Oh, it was always baby steps with us. We never kind of just like broke the market. There was always just like a baby step. I think the first artist we did a national tour with would have been 7 Day Slumber, which they would have been just solid. It wouldn't be DC Talk.
Caroline.
And then same with radio. It's just like a radio station in Florida picked you up, a radio station in Dallas picked you up. You got one show with Skillet, you got one show with, I don't know, bands back in the day, Pillar.
Yeah.
So it was just like a step by step by step, and it was, I think the biggest moment, I guess Winter Jam would have been a big moment for us. That was a surprise because
That's a good one.
that's
Yeah.
pretty much like an impossibility to
Mhm.
get on as far um as being an
Yeah.
independent artist. It's like, why even bother? And then we were able to make that. So that was kind of incredible because we're going from decent tours from like Audio A, Group One Crew,
Yeah.
Royal Taylor, like they're solid tours and a ton of fun too. Like an arena tour that was our biggest kind of step, I think.
Yeah,
And that
Winter
was
Jam
pretty
was
recent. That was like a couple years ago, right?
That's where I first got acquainted with who you guys were, was at Winter Jam in Portland, Oregon, and it's like, oh, I've got to dig into this a little bit more. This is a cool, fresh sound, and so that was fun for me to be able to see that. What kind of opportunities came about because of that stint on Winter Jam?
Well, that's hard to judge because we're the following year, and then this
yeah,
whole pandemic
there's
happened.
this
So
thing
you're
going
like,
around the world. It's
it was the weirdest thing to kind of like get off of Winter Jam and have all this momentum, and then everything just stops.
yeah, what happened? Do you know? John, did you know what happened? What did you do? What
Um,
did you do?
but
you-
yeah, definitely like on the tour and right after the tour, doing summer festivals and stuff. It definitely helped, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of work, and we got to meet a lot of new fans. A lot of people would kind of be familiar with our name, which was cool, and they were able to kind of put a face to the songs, which was important. But yeah, it's definitely crazy. I
Yeah, well, just
just never
every
imagined that,
the beautiful thing, there was never just one phone call. I mean, there was maybe a dozen or so of calls and people reaching out saying if we'd be involved in doing a certain opportunity or a tour, or even getting a call for Air One Radio, landing that with Walls, our single, Dude Perfect, landing that, and them supporting our music over the last couple of
Yeah,
years.
Dude Perfect is like a viral YouTube channel,
Right.
and they called us up out of the blue, and I didn't know who they were, and they were like, "Can we use your music?" I was like, "Why? Who are you?" And then I looked them up. I was like, "Oh, okay, I get you. I get you. Yeah, you could use a
Yeah.
couple tunes."
When Tom Cruise called us, he's like, "Let me help you." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Who?" That never happened. No, I made that up.
But yeah, it's always been like tackling like a lot of small battles, and then you get a couple cool things, and you just keep on going on for the ride.
So you've probably had this question asked about 1,000,001 times in the last 11 months. The brakes get put on. It's like somebody didn't pay the electric bill, and now everything comes to a screeching halt. How did you guys pivot? Because you guys are still doing stuff. In fact, you guys are kind of digging into some extra creativity stuff since you're not on the road as much.
Yeah, we were a little fortunate. I know it's been a hard year for a lot of people, especially people in the music community or
Yeah.
any entertainment community. But we just had wrapped up a tour with Colton Dixon. So this was November of 2019. And then Shawn knew he was going to be a father. We were already anticipating and being in the studio anyways, uh, in regards to our release for Volume 1. So we were already planning like, okay, we're not going to be touring as heavily just because, we knew Shawn was going to be a brand new dad.
Yeah.
And we wanted to really be heavily involved with the studio, releasing new material. And we wanted to do a lot more music videos and things like that. So we were going to take on dates, but that was sort of our plan for 2020.
Yeah, we kind of saved up for some studio time.
And so when things went to a screeching halt, we were like, yeah, we obviously missed out on some shows and opportunities and festivals, but we were already anticipating on doing some releases and such. So, and that Shawn could have been home as a as a father with a brand new baby
Yep.
boy, you like him, right? You like him?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good. Okay, what's the return policy? So,
Well, I was going to ask, which is more important, being the new dad or being the new uncle? That's probably the bigger question.
well, being an uncle is way more important than being a father. We know that scientifically. That there's actually a professor that talks about that. No, oh yeah. So I'm uncle of 2 boys now, 2 nephews.
Oh, very cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful journey. Yeah. But so yeah, we've had a lot more just family time and raising Cody a little bit and working a lot in the studio. And I'm very excited to be releasing Volume 1 and doing sort of trying to land videos or maybe some commercials and just focus in that realm as of now until we get back on the road.
So when you guys decided, I mean, you're already on kind of hiatus, if you will, but you've been doing these online Facebook Live type events. Was there a new learning curve for that, or did that just kind of come naturally out of all the stuff you've been doing so far?
It's not so much a learning curve. We obviously just got to focus a little bit more online, just keeping our fans engaged until we can get back on the road. So I think it's just creating the content for now, kind of throwing it out there, dipping into the savings account, and
Yeah.
just hoping that within we could float for a year and a half, and just squeeze a little bit tight, and then hopefully things kind of keep on going.
Squeeze a little tight at a time where you've got an extra mouth to feed. That's a challenge, I bet.
Uh
Really? Do you have to feed it? Is that a thing?
yeah.
It's not just replace the batteries, I don't think.
Wow.
Actually, the stress, like, I guess if we're talking about the whole scenario of what happened in my personal life, I actually, like, the whole thing kind of came tumbling down. We were working on this tour with Colton Dixon that was supposed to be happening in April, like really early April, and then March, we're starting to get a couple like weird. People are giving us weird phone calls. They're like, "Have you heard what's going on?" I was like, "Yeah, that's not an issue. It should be okay."
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, like everybody's panicking, and I'm looking at this. My wife is pregnant. I'm on the phone. I was like, "Oh no," because all the deposits like for this tour
Yeah.
have been set up. Like we own this tour, so it's not just Manic Drive's part of the tour. We actually hired Colton Dixon, Citizen Way, the bus driver. Like everything was like ready to go, and then 2 weeks prior to it, all of a sudden it's just like pull the plug and then let everybody knows that
the one night music circus was put on hold.
This was supposed to be like the last tour until we took a little bit of a break, so the tour would generate income, we'd have a little bit more cushion and stuff like that. And so that was kind of crazy. And then my wife and I, on a personal note, in February we bought a home that was being built. So it's a pre-construction home. They're like, it's going to take a year to build. And all of a sudden in March, this tour falls through. The real estate market in Canada starts tanking like really quick. And we're like, do we sell? Because if we don't sell now, we might like the jump from selling our current home to the new home might be too. So it's like, do we want to take that gamble, or do we just like sell now? We know the price, we can get out of the market and just see what's going on. So we sold our house like the same time the tour got canceled. And then we're like looking at it, and my wife is pregnant, and the house is closing in May, and we're homeless, and the baby's coming in June.
And then Tom Hanks got sick. It was too much.
I was just like, oh man, like I'm a Christian musician out of a job, I'm homeless with a baby coming. It's not your ideal situation, but luckily my dad, who's been very involved in our music career, he has a bigger home, and I was like, hey, we're gonna have to lay low for a year with you, with my wife and kid, and he was cool with it. So it's not it's, you don't really go about bragging about how, hey, I moved in back with my dad. But for the current scenario, I'm really happy I don't have the pressure of a mortgage right now. So I'm taking it as a blessing. We're actually having a lot of fun. We spend a lot of time like on the road together as well. So it's pretty natural just coming back in here, and we're all kind of like a mini little Brady bunch.
Hey, Dad, can you get some meatloaf up here? Some nachos? Yeah, we know as grown-ups, you got to be very mature about these things. We said nachos!
Stop it! We're doing an interview! I'll do it later!
Quiet, old man!
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So there's a little bit behind the scenes, but we're in a good position. That's not, we didn't lose our house. We're just kind of temporarily out of it, and we're kind of rolling with the punches. Just creating as much music as we can. And then, things should be up and running. We're really excited about it on a personal note and with the band.
We do hope things start opening up, and we missed the road and everything. So hopefully that will be coming in the theater near you.
A lot of people,
Yeah.
a lot of people ask us, what's going to happen? Aren't you worried? Like, what's going to happen if you lose your career? And I always say to them, I was like, worst comes to worst, and I need to get another job. Like, worst case scenario, I'll make more money. That's the worst that could happen right now.
Oh, you've actually thought this through. Good for you, man.
Michael has no plan B. He's gonna join Striper.
I'm gonna join Striper.
Oh, there you go. So you released Volume 1 in November. Do I understand correct? You're working on Volume 2.
Correct.
And so there's going to be kind of a series. From what I read this somewhere, that you're going to be doing a kind of a series of EPs over the next few months. Is that the plan still?
Yeah, like a saga of music, a musical journey. So we thought it was actually a clever thing. This is even before the whole world shut down, to have more smaller releases and carry people on more of a musical journey, and actually release more music videos and songs more often than that, more fluently, than that of maybe just waiting every 2-3 years for 10 or 12 tracks and then sometimes half of those tracks don't even get really the platform or attention that they need. So we're like, let's try a new concept of maybe just doing I guess small albums would be the technical term of several tracks where we can just really fix it and focus on them, and then do music videos with that, and just kind of keep it busy with that. And so we just kind of tried it as a new thing, and we will see where that goes. But so far we've had a great time with it, good journey, and the impact has been good, we think. So
again, this was all stuff that was kind of pre-planned before the pandemic hit, and you're just kind of the guidance that God, or the vision that God had given you, is just kind of, hey, I've got this thing coming up, and we're going to provide you and cover you through that anyway.
If the vision was more clear, knowing that COVID-19 was going to be around, then that would have really helped us plan things more financially. But
the way it worked out, we're all really grateful and blessed by how everything's kind of working out right now. And looking forward to moving forward. Wow, I don't know.
I'd have to rewind that to see that. Never mind.
Yeah.
Then you'd have to go backwards to see what he forward.
You'd have to go backwards to look forward to my quote on looking forward to moving forward.
2 steps forward, 4 steps back. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, it's great. It's brilliant. Sean's writing a philosophy book.
There you go.
No one's going to read it.
So can you kind of give a sneak peek as to kind of what some of the themes on the new album are, or are you still formulating that?
We're such in a preliminary kind of mode right now. So what happens is, like, literally start with like voice notes, or just writing down a couple things on a notepad or on the computer, just about like something. So it's so preliminary, and then you'll sit with those ideas, and then eventually that will get somewhat recorded in some sort of demo. And we sit with a lot of ideas. So we're a lot of the difference between us and a lot of signed Christian artists, there's a little bit more producers or songwriters involved with the process, where with us we keep it in-house as much as possible. One, because we like doing it. Two, we want it to be authentic, coming from us. And three, there's not many options out there for Christian songwriters, actually, so that do pop rock kind of stuff. So we like to sit with it and see which songs kind of keep us excited for the longest, and have longevity to them. So the whole process.
And with the songwriting process with Volume 1 was that a lot of it that we were writing about was very personal, that was happening within recent months. So I think that was kind of being filtered through to that. And we hope that Volume 2, when it comes out, we still breathe out that same sort of transparency and honesty and that sort of organic message,
or
right?
Just have a lot of fun too with it. Like, when we say transparency, it doesn't always have to be like heavy, serious, and like we're two guys that have a lot of fun, as you can tell with the jokes and stuff.
We take life so seriously.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's interesting for me is, we are documenting music from, the 60s all the way through today. And when I talk and interview folks who have been around for a long time, and they're really finding it difficult to make a living in this new era of all streaming, all online. They're used to the touring, they're used to the record label, and all of that stuff bringing income in. And then I talk to younger artists like yourselves who are saying, well, we've grown up in the streaming era and this is normal for us. Have you had any
Yeah.
have you had any of that kind of thought process about how it's different for you, or is that's just what it is?
Yeah, we kind of were around during that transitional stage in the music industry, where we almost, well, being young fans of music, but then we remember the whole thing with the physical units, and
Mhm.
then things became more stream and more digital, and then that becoming a thing. Well, we just talked about albums, and now they're being more like people are just releasing EPs or singles now.
Yep.
Obviously, things like Spotify and streams and that, get your music out there, but your royalties are kind of cut back a little
Yeah.
bit. So definitely a new change. For us, what we actually focused on, which is the disadvantage now doing the current status of the world, but was touring, merchandising, connecting with people, going out of there and actually focused on that element and taking advantage of the digital platform, that streaming thing, but being, okay, guess what? I guess we got to now do a lot more actual physical touring and things like that, because there's always new ways to make money and to financially get creative, right?
Yeah. So you do a lot more
You know?
merch stuff, you do a lot more physical appearances, and that's where the income comes rather than the music
Mhm.
is more an advertisement for, hey, we've got a show coming up. This is the stuff we'll be playing kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
And we were blessed with some YouTube channels. So Sean talked about Dude Perfect and other sort of like sport related channels that have really helped us, create a beautiful platform for our music to reach people. So it's how you look at it. Obviously the world's always changing technologically. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it's just the game of playing keep up,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been interesting as you guys have been talking about all of these, the kind of how the path unfolded before you. It seems really evident to me that God has laid this out for you, even if he didn't tell you the specifics of the deal, but that it's just these series of small steps that God has said, nope, I've got this plan, and it seems to be working out really well for you guys.
Man, like I said, we're very grateful for what's happening in our lives personally and stuff. Um, at the end of the day, man, we kind of just look at it and um even without the career having any success and stuff, just personally in my life, just having health and a wife and a beautiful baby boy, I just see that trumping anything that's happening in our career. And as much as I'm grateful for what has happened in the career, I think just you know I see the real blessings just in the simple things, and I just like to say that just because there's a lot of fans and or people that might be listening, being like, hey, you know uh, if I try a music career and I fail at it, that means I'm not blessed, which isn't the
Hmm.
case. Just because you have success in this world doesn't mean you're always blessed. I find the real blessings are the simple things: love, health, family. And so I just like to say that because I think a lot of people get caught up in, hey, God doesn't love me as much as he likes the newsboys because they're more successful. And I just don't see that that's how it functions in my faith. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. That's very profound.
Wow, that was very heartfelt. Man,
Yeah.
that sounded legit. You think they bought it? Oh man.
Fooled them.
Good thing it's not being recorded. Okay.
Well, one of the things that we do every Saturday, we send out a newsletter to folks who are committed to praying for artists. And how can we specifically be praying for you guys, both individually and then as Manic Drive?
I think some of the obvious things that a lot of artists are going through right now through the pandemic and stuff like that. More just to get rid of the fear and the anxiety that you constantly have to battle, and just feel kind of secure in once again your faith and the people that surround you in your walk. I think that's all you could really ask for. At the end of the day, we're hoping Manic Drive, powers through this, and we're stronger than ever. But yeah, I think just kind of letting go of that fear and anxiety might be a cool request.
Thank you for taking the time to share your story, guys. It's cool to hear how God has been providing for you, even guiding your plans for 2020 before we knew about this global pandemic. I really appreciate your focus on life perspective and what makes a successful career. And so thanks for sharing that with us. I'm really excited about the music and focus of Manic Drive. So to wrap up today's podcast, I'm going to share their song Sugar Coated. And if you like what you hear, jump over to manicdrive.com and check out their other albums and some very creative music videos. All of Manic Drive's links will be included in the show notes of this episode. So let's jump in and listen to Sugar Coated by Manic Drive.
What's that noise? Yeah, I got a few questions for you. What's your secret? What you hiding? Oh, there's something called the truth. You got that archetype kind of life, built-in reactions. Got that New York kind of state of mind with no satisfaction. Perfect white, crooked smile and ghost in the attic. Got that silver tongue, loaded gun and bullets to match it. Tell me, what's your secret? What you hiding? Oh, there's something called the truth and I'm gonna find it. What's the story? Oh, why you smiling? Oh, there's something called the truth. I won't be you. Talk to me. Once in your life, be real with me. Sugar-coated. True. Sugar-coated. Spend your whole long life keeping prestigious status. Or could you go so cute? Keep up the image, give me that gimme attitude with all of the gimmicks. Ha! What's your secret? What you hiding? Oh, there's something called the truth and I'm gonna find it. What's the story? Oh, why you smiling? Oh, there's something called the truth. I won't be you. Talk to me. Once in your life, be real with me. Sugar-coated. True. Sugar-coated. Is that noise? Something. Yummy plastic taste, so sweet. Sugar-coated. Tastes like candy. Sugar-coated. Tastes like candy. Who's the man in the mirror? It's you. Who's the man in it talking to you? No one else by myself in this room. I guess it's safe to assume I'd be lying if I'm honest with you. Compromise, so I'm bending the truth. Pardon me, I don't mean to be rude, but I got a few questions for you. What's your secret? What you hiding? Oh, there's something called the truth and I'm gonna find it. What's the story? Why you smiling? Oh, there's something called the truth. That I've been you. That I've been you. That I've been you. Baby. Talk to me. Once in a life, be real with me. Sugar-coated. Tastes like candy. Sugar-coated. Tastes like candy. Say something. Yummy plastic taste, so sweet. Sugar-coated. Tastes like candy. Sugar-coated. Tastes like candy.
As always, thanks for joining me for this conversation today. I am grateful that we get to spend this time together each week hearing stories of God's amazing faithfulness. As a regular listener to this podcast, would you mind taking a few minutes and rating it on your favorite podcast app? Reviews and ratings really help spread the word so that other folks can hear about these great conversations. And if you have comments or questions for me, please feel free to drop me a message on any of the social media platforms. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Patreon by searching for @CCMExchange. Or you can always drop me an email on the website christianmusicarchive.com. I'm really looking forward to our time together next week when I have another great conversation with one of the musicians you'll find on the pages of the Christian Music Archive. So until then, remember this: God loves you. In fact, He's crazy about you.